Hi, my name is Gerhard Gschwandtner. We are broadcasting today from Fredericksburg, Virginia.
I'm Anthony Iannarino in Columbus, Ohio.
I'm Julio Viskovich in Vancouver, Canada.
Let's start the show with a clip from Tony Robbins. Let's watch this.
You and I want to know what it takes to be happy. We have to understand what is our current blueprint of how our life's supposed to be. Now, what do I mean by blueprint? Well, we have a story in our head of how life's supposed to be. Some people's story is you work hard in school, you become really great, you're a nice person, you're a good person, and then you grow up and you take care of yourself and you find the ideal man and you fall in love and you have a white picket fence and you have 3 perfect children and you live happily ever after. Whenever you're happy with an area of your life, it's because right now, your current life experience, I call it your LC, your life conditions, the conditions of your life conditions in that area match or are equal to your blueprint, your story, your belief about how life should be in that area. I tell people in advance, here's the formula for unhappiness. I'll show you before you do anything else. When your life conditions, the way you're living your life today, does not match, it doesn't equal your blueprint, your story of how it's supposed to be, then you're going to have disappointment, frustration, or pain. Your 3 choices. When life doesn't match how you think it should be, blame something. An event, someone else, or yourself. As we talked about earlier in this series, blame games just destroy you. There's no progress when you blame. For the moment, you feel okay, but nothing changes. What are your real choices? You only have 2 choices in life. If life doesn't match your blueprint, you either have to change your life. That is, you got to say, you know what, my body isn't there, I'm going to go work out. My relationship isn't there, I'm going to change it. You know, I'm not making what I got to make, I'm going to retool, I'm going to get a new skill, I'm going to go back to school, I'm going to start a business, I'm going to do something. You have to do something to change your life. Or, in order for you to be happy, if you can't change your life, you're going to have to change your blueprint.
So let's analyze that clip. In essence, Tony Robbins talks about happiness, and he talks about the inner blueprint and outer reality. Anthony, based on what you have researched about success, how does Tony's sort of technology match up to reality?
I think it matches up precisely. I'm a big fan, and I love this that he uses. You have this blueprint in your mind, and then you match your life conditions to that blueprint. And when they're out of sync, you tend to be unhappy. But it's an interesting thing to me because he said a couple things in there that are really important. One, we have this story that we tell, and this story gives meaning to our life. So maybe that story says, I failed in business, so I'm a failure. And that might be the way some person tells that story. Or they might say, yeah, I have a failed marriage, so my life is a failure because of that. And they use that to define themselves. But it's interesting to me that other people would take that and they would change the meaning of the story to say, I failed in business, now I'm better prepared to succeed the next time I'm in business. And so there's a way that we interpret these events and this life conditions that we can change the blueprint to fit the life conditions anytime we want. But what's interesting to me about successful people is they all have the survivor's story. Everybody's got these bad negative events that have happened, but they don't attach that negative meaning to them and let it define them. Instead, they take that and they use it as a call to action to say, I'm going to change my life conditions. And they take massive actions and overcompensate for that failure. They fail in business, so they try 10 times harder the next time and they make sure they succeed. And I think that that's sort of the key to this thing. I think people can change the story, they can change that blueprint, and they can change the actions, and that's really what it takes to succeed.
Julia, what's your take on this?
Well, when I hear Tony Robbins' clip, I think influence, I think change, and I think visualization. And as salespeople, we have to get in the mindset of how can I get others to visualize their success? And in many cases, that means taking somebody's current situation and being able to paint a nice path of how they can move from their current situation to their desired situation. Not unlike Vince Lombardi, who used quotes and stories to help his players visualize and buy into his vision of winning before they would play a game.
Do you think that's changing the blueprint or changing the life conditions?
I think that it could be potentially changing both. I think both of those things are going to require change from somebody getting from point A to point B. They require both a blueprint change and a change to their life conditions.
I agree with that. I think that's the part that really we need to work on in sales is how do we help them change the blueprint. They have the status quo because of everything they believe and everything they've done up to this point. Now, to change the status quo, you have to have some new beliefs and you have to take some new actions. So the blueprint has to change, and the life conditions have to change, or the business conditions, or whatever it is.
I'd like to suggest a different word for the blueprint because I think blueprint is fairly rigid, and I think it's a more fluid term like guiding fiction. You know, we talk to ourselves all the time, and we store in our mind sort of a narrative that explains our life. And as our life changes, we need to change the old narrative. We cannot move too far ahead of ourselves without changing that narrative. And that means appraising reality more objectively, but also reappraising the guiding fiction that we are operating under.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's a constant battle of us reevaluating, evaluating, and reevaluating our situation and tweaking things until we eventually get to that blueprint that we so hope or strive to achieve.
Anthony, can you tell me a situation in your life where you have made a change like that, where you have changed your blueprint?
I've changed my blueprint a whole bunch of times. I mean, that underlying belief, that narrative that I've told all kinds of different stories. I was super poor, and I thought that, you know, the way out was to just get a job and work really hard. So I thought I need to become a hard worker. And then later on, after having the brain surgery, at that time I was fronting a rock band. I changed the narrative dramatically from fronting a rock band to, you know, taking up pursuits in business. And this idea of matching the life conditions and the blueprints, one of the ways that I overcompensated for having a piece of my bruised brain cut off was to go to college, because the story I told myself is that I lost some percentage of brain and now I need to do something with the rest of the brain that I have left. And so I've continually redefined what that blueprint was and my life conditions along with it. And I think Julio's right. We continue to go through the process of redefining ourselves and telling that new story over and over again. And hopefully that story is constantly moving us up and moving us forward. Instead of a story, a lot of people tell themselves that this means I'm a failure, this means I can't, this means I'm stuck here.
Julio, do you want to share about your life where you had to change your blueprint, where you realized this one was no longer serving you?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's happened multiple times, just as Anthony has described here. And one of the major things for me was just being able to embrace failure and take that as something that was going to drive me to become a better person rather than just accept it as failure. So, you know, being able to take those knocks, being able to take those punches, wake up the next day and be able to look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself that you're having a great day and today is going to be a successful one. And just changing that mindset and taking that new approach has been, you know, something that's really helped me start my day and, you know, really move towards the new me.
Did your blueprint and life conditions ever get so out of balance, Gerhard, as the publishing industry changed?
Well, I'm thinking of three things in my head. One, the biggest change in my blueprint or guiding fiction was when I moved from Austria to France. And I lived in Paris, and I lived in a smaller town, much smaller town in Austria. So there was a cultural change, but also being in a big, huge city and speaking another language, you feel kind of lost initially. And there's this cross-cultural adjustment. And then I realized that I have adaptive capacities that I can deploy and roll with the punches. And I wasn't, you know, trying to be perfect in French. And I went to a lot of movie theaters and watched a lot of movies just to get the language into my ear. And it helped a lot. And then when I changed from coming to the United States, I had a massive awakening where I thought, life is totally different here. And people are thinking differently. The mindset has shifted. So I needed to change my old blueprint and my narrative and, you know, put it all together, assemble it again in English. And that's a massive shift. Also, as you said, the publishing industry has changed dramatically. And what I love in the process of going through the pain of change is every time we go through change, we discover something better within us. So change actually helps us grow.
I agree completely. I love the way that you've embraced it, though, and with 3 times you've embraced it in your life. And it's amazing. I can imagine coming from a small town in Austria to Paris. I mean, that's got to be a dramatic shift. And then the United States. And then the United States is where probably you really had the opportunity to see that the opportunity for you was limitless in this particular country, maybe more than any place you've ever lived. True?
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And I feel really privileged to have been able to go through those experiences. However, as Julio said, the pain of feeling like on the border of failure so many times, you know, it really wakes you up, and then you realize that there's actually more in you than you recognize. And I want to share this with everybody, because everybody who's out there who's going through a pain of change, they need to watch videos like what Tony Robbins is explaining, and he's the master at it. I've interviewed Tony and had him on the cover of Selling Power magazine, and he is an absolutely brilliant individual who can help you with a turnaround.
And the change that we're all speaking about, gentlemen, you know, it's not unlike the changes that, you know, sales folks are going through today, in that, you know, buyers are changing, they're finding information in new places, and salespeople are in a situation where they have to adapt, they have to find their comfort level, and they have to take new approaches in order to connect with these new buyers.
What I see happening on the web right now is a lot of people that are getting to the game late think that there's a shortcut that they can take. They think that if I continue to blast my message and broadcast, I can end up building some brand equity. But this toolkit just doesn't lend itself to broadcasting as much as it does to interaction and sharing. That's my opinion.
Julia, can you explain how Hootsuite turns salespeople into micro marketers?
Yeah, absolutely. We're lucky enough to actually eat our own dog food and have a tool that allows us to eat our own dog food here at Hootsuite. And you know, our dashboard and our tool allows us to connect with people on all sorts of different types of social networks. And really, it's being able to, you know, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, and be able to choose the right path to connect people on those networks. If your audience is on Facebook, if they're on Twitter, you can choose the appropriate channel and present yourself in the appropriate way. So really making sure that your messaging is crafted for those channels. So if you're on Twitter, you know, you have to keep your messaging very short, under 140 characters. So being able to tell a good story in those 140 characters about why you're the right person that they should be talking to is quite essential. And we use our tool for, you know, a number of different ways and a number of different types of connections that we can facilitate.
But it's more than that too, Julio, isn't it? I mean, I think what concerns me about salespeople using the social web is that we can't have a whole sales force with everybody on a different note, a different message at the same time. And I think what Hootsuite, and I'm a huge fan of Hootsuite, I think what it allows you to do if you're a team is to have some control over that messaging, to make sure that we're all on message and on point all the time, which is what, as a sales manager, I'm concerned about. If somebody's out and they're tweeting whatever they want to tweet, it may not be helping the brand, it may not be giving the message the way we want it to. And you guys have some tools that really allow, I don't want to say greater control, because you want your salespeople to have the freedom to do what they need to do, but some control, some at least staying on message.
One of the things that we do at Hootsuite is really work with our marketing department and ensure that our sales folk and our marketing people are aligned. And one of the things that we can do within the tool is have our sales team access a draft area where only our marketers can go in there and put appropriate messaging. So as a salesperson, I can go in there and have this lovely sort of bank of different messages, different information that I can send out depending on whereabouts my audience is in the sales process. And again, like you say, give the ability to our team to access different messaging, but stay on point and stay on brand at the same time.
How can salespeople benefit from Hootsuite?
Well, Gerhard, to answer that question, we could easily be sitting here for the next 3 or 4 hours, but if I kind of whittle it down and talk about some of the key things, you know, there's certainly a lot of beneficial pieces to Hootsuite for a sales team. The first one is finding your prospects, finding your audience, finding your buyers. Of course, LinkedIn is so powerful. Again, I mean, everybody, you know, from a professional standpoint is on there. But that's not good enough. You have to know your buyers more than that. You have to know them outside of their professional circles to have context before those calls. And Anthony and I were having a little bit of a discussion earlier regarding cold calls and whether or not it was possible to eliminate cold calls. I don't think that we can ever eliminate them, but I do think that we can change a large amount of those into warm calls. And that's really what Hootsuite allows you to do initially, is to be able to gather some of that intel or gather some of the information around somebody online, whether it be from LinkedIn, from Facebook and Twitter, and have a little bit of a context to reach out to them. And again, change that cold call into more of a warm call.
Julio, that's an interesting thing for me, and I think that one thing that and I think it's because we're salespeople and because we're marketers, we're so used to the direction of that channel going this way, not coming this way. But Hootsuite's a listening tool, and I think that that's the part that salespeople don't understand, is that you can listen as well as speak, and I mean that's sort of the value of social. You want to warm it up, start listening. You can put hashtags in and create a search and then keep that up in front of you at all times, so when people are talking about something that you're interested in or that would be interested in you, you can keep an eye on that and look at that.
Exactly, exactly. So between hashtags, between some very customized searches, you can really get a good idea of what's going on in your particular marketplace. Give you a quick example. One way that I use Hootsuite for networking and for location-based networking is being able to do a geo-coded search. So if you're at a conference, as many of my colleagues are right now attending the South by Southwest conference in in Austin, what they can do is set up a search for Hootsuite, but put a geocode to that search so that they can set a radius within Austin to be able to only see the people who are chatting about Hootsuite within the Austin city limits. And now you can go out, reach out to them, connect with them when you never would have been able to connect with them prior to Hootsuite. And this is something that I always recommend people do when they're going to a conference or some type of event like that.
Great advice.
Thank you, Anthony. I want to thank you, Julio, for contributing, and let's do this again soon.